Hello YouTube, so this is the next 3D printing video. This is probably the one that I get asked most about. You see on the Facebook groups the most questions asked. It's probably the most difficult bit of 3D printing, and that's leveling your bed. So the reason you level your bed is without a perfectly flat surface and a perfectly parallel surface to the end of the nozzle, you won't be able to get your first layer of printing down, and without your first layer of printing down, the rest of the model won't print properly and you'll have all sorts of problems. And this is what most people have trouble with, so they get frustrated with manual leveling. They go out and buy a auto level sensor, go through the hassle of doing that, and then they're quite happy. But it does have a lot of restrictions. I don't like auto leveling. I like live leveling, so I like to adjust things as I'm printing and all sorts of stuff. So I'm going to show you a manual method that's very easy, very simple, and anybody can do it, and you'll get perfect first layers. So it's going to be quite a long video because there's different parts to it, but we'll go through it all anyway. So this is the essence of bed leveling. The first thing you need to do is make sure that the surface you're printing on is absolutely flat. So I'm not on about tilting and angles, I'm on about the consistency of flatness across. Now many beds for 3D printers are not flat. What we're talking about is a flatness to within 0.1 or 0.05 of a millimeter. That's how flat you need to be across the whole surface. So it's very precise. And what you'll find is sometimes the surface, like the piece of glass you're printing on, is flat, but the aluminium bed underneath is not flat. This is due to manufacturing problems. This is due to tensions on the rollers that hold it, the carriage and all the rest of it. So we need to get around that. So I'm going to show you how I fix the flatness, and I'll go through the procedure of leveling the bed, and then you'll see how the two relate to itself. So I'll bring you in closer so you can see. So here we have the bed. This is the print surface, the glass substrate, and then some aluminium. You might just have glass, you might have something else on there, doesn't really matter. I hold them on with clips, which I find are perfectly all right. I use bits of leather, just bits of, you can buy that anywhere, split leather, and that just protects the surface and the heater underneath. I'll take those off. I have two on the front and two on the back, and I make sure that the clips are at least 10 centimeters from the corners, and there's a reason for that later, you'll see. Now I also have ones on the side. Not everybody has this, but I find if you clamp on the front and back, you sometimes get a bow and it's not sitting flat on the sides. So I always put some clips on the sides. We'll take all this off. We'll destroy my perfectly level bed and start over. Okay, so the clips are off, so that'll just lift off now, and you'll see what's underneath. So here we have just masking tape, you know, just your common masking tape. You can use tin foil if you think that's a benefit to you, or if you're using really high temperatures, but I just use masking tape. And wherever there is not flat, and I'll show you how to determine that later, you've just put some tape. What you're doing is you only have to do this once. I need to put a little bit more on because I've noticed a little bit of a dip in the middle slightly. And just add in that there. You'll get to the point when you're measuring that you'll find out one layer of tape will make all the difference. I'm just going to put that on there. Make sure there's no wrinkles or air bubbles. And I'm going to put a tiny bit in the middle. What tends to happen is it dips in the middle or bows in the middle. So that's what you're sorting out. So put your tape on your bed. You'll see later how to determine whether that's level or not. So as you're building this up, you're getting a perfectly flat surface all the way across. And you put your plate on. You can use just glass if you want. There's all sorts of ways to do that. We'll do another video on adhesion because that's not so complicated. just by eye I know that's roughly 10 centimeters. So you want to make sure that everything's even, so this gap here and this gap here is an even gap, so you don't want uneven pressure. So if you put any clips on the sides, just be aware it's going to hit the frame. So the bottom one you want to flick under, and the top one you want to remove, so you just pinch it and it will come out. Like that. On the other side, there you go. Make sure they're all pushed on so they're nice and tight. Once you get this done, I only have to do this once and then I don't really have to do it again. I don't have to re-level and things like that. So now you've got your plate, you're doing your leveling underneath, and now you want to check how flat it is. So the first time you do this, I suggest, let's bring you down. So I suggest underneath you do these up quite tight, so you're turning these anti-clockwise to tighten onto the screw to compress these springs. So you're going to tighten these up, not all the way, but quite a way, because what you don't want to do is bring the head down and smash into your build plate. That would be not good. So I know now springs are quite tight, and that's not going to hit when this homes down to the plate. It's going to be a little bit off the plate. I put some washers under there because I like my springs compressed a little bit more. So now we're going to level, and this bit's a bit difficult to see because we're talking about fractions of a millimetre, so it's going to be a bit tricky. Now I'm going to run some code. Normally if you push this backwards and forwards, this is not a good idea by hand, because you're inducing currents in the motors which go back into the control unit and then can damage the control unit. So you don't really want to move that too much. If you do, move it very slowly, not fast, and it'll be okay. But I use some code to help me level, so I'm going to run the code, and if you look down below, the code is on Thingiverse. It's my code that I've written, and you'll see this will help you move things around without having to touch it on any printer. Now this is set up for my 300 by 300 mil plate, so you might have to change the code yourself in the text file just to get the distances right. So on my memory cards, I've always got a folder called Cal for calibration, and in there is all my calibration prints, and I keep that on every card so I can run them at any time. And in Cal I've got a one called, where is it, level assist somewhere. There you go, level assist. And we'll do that. Now when you do this, you have to have the bed at the right temperature. So I've set this to 50 degrees just as an example. It will heat up the bed and then it will go through the leveling procedure. And this is going to move quite fast. What's going to happen is it's going to home the head, it's going to come down to the minimum height, and then it's going to go across to a point about here, and it's going to wait 10 seconds for you to do adjustments, and then it's going to let you know, beep, then 3 seconds after the beep is going to lift, go to the next position, same again, and then it will go to the middle. And what you're doing is, when it's finished at the right position, you're adjusting these knobs and you loosen off the bed so it comes up, it touches the nozzle, so you hear a vibration or a different sound, then you back off maybe quarter of a turn on your knob, and then that will bring it back down just a little bit, so it's just off the bed, and that's all you need to do at this stage. If you notice when it's going round that you got all four corners right, but the middle has got a big gap under it, then you know you need to put more tape underneath to bring that back up. What's important is the flat surface all the way across. If it's not flat, you're never going to get a great print. I don't like compensation of auto levelers. That's just fudging the issue. That's taking all these dips and averaging them out, and that's just a fudge. Get a flat surface, and then it's easy to level and it's easy to print, and you've got no other complicated system involved. It's a lot faster too. So it's just heating up now. The reason you heat the plate when you're leveling is because this all expands, which changes the gap between the nozzle. I found that you don't need to heat the nozzle up because the distance of that is so minute that it doesn't make any difference. You just need to heat up the bed because that does expand quite a lot. So I'll bring you back when that's up to speed, and then we'll go through the first movement, which will be a home, and then it will go to the adjustment position, and then we'll adjust. So it's going to home now. It's letting me know, beeping. What I'm going to do is it's going to come down. I'll let it do the home. So it's a long way off the bed. That's fine. Go to the first position. Go down. Right, now it's letting me do. So I'm loosening this off, undoing the nut until it touches. Back off. There you go. Go to the next one. We do this a few times. So go down to it touches. Back off. Quarter of a turn. And you'll feel the vibration when it touches. When it's only just touching, you'll feel it. Goes to the next position. Touch it, back it off, quarter of a turn. Back position. There you go. Okay. So you don't have to measure anything, you don't have to use paper or anything like that. Now it's going to go to the middle. We're going to check this now. And that's pretty good. It's just off touching, so I think that's about right. You can adjust all four if you want to adjust the middle height. So that's now finished. It'll go to a park position. Now we're going to run that again because we've adjusted and you get all different things going on when it adjusts. So we're just going to run that again. And then we're going to fine tune. So this time it will be much less adjustments. So let's do that again. It's nearly up to temperature already, so we don't have to worry about that. So now this one, too close. So touch, back off, quarter of a turn. Yeah, that one was also a little bit close, but not so much. So I just touched it, backed it off, quarter of a turn. It's not too bad. A little bit of adjustment, but not so much on that one. And that one is about right. Okay, so the middle should be all right now. Let's just see. Needs a little bit of adjustment. Right, okay, good. So that's that. I don't use paper and things because the way I do it, the next step avoids using the paper. So we've leveled the bed roughly, and what we're going to do next is a very fine tuning. Using paper and stuff's a bit useless because paper's all different thicknesses and the grab strength is all different, so don't worry about that. What we're going to do now is the precise leveling, and this is fractions 0.01 of a millimeter, I would say. And we're going to do live leveling, which means we're going to print something, and as it's printing, we're going to adjust very fine movements of the adjustment wheel until it gets perfect. And I'll explain what to look for when you're doing that. So I've got another thing on Thingiverse, which is a test print. Go and print that out. What's important is the height of the test print is 0.2 millimeters. And when you slice it, slice your first layer at 0.18 millimeters. And that's all you need to do, and then you print it. So we'll set that going now. Okay, so we're free on the camera now, doing freestyle camera work, so it might be a bit shaky, but I want to get you in really close so you can see what's going on. So now we go to my test prints, and we're gonna use 0.2 bed level. This again is on Thingiverse. You might have to adjust it for your bed size, but it's basically 4 squares, 0.2 layer height, and that's it really. You just have to adjust it for the size of your bed. So this has now got to heat up the bed and the nozzle, and we're going to print PLA or whatever your filament is. Just give the bed a wipe with a cotton rag. And then what's going to happen is it's going to do a purge here, and then it's going to do a square here, and a square here, back 2 corners, and a square in the middle. And as it's printing the square, we're going to be adjusting the leveling knob to get the best print. And you'll see when it's you might see when it's printing, because it's very small. If it's too high, if the nozzle's too high, it's going to lift off the bed, and if the nozzle's too low, it's going to be very thin, and you'll get edges curling up, so you get like a rough surface. And what you're doing is adjusting until that's a nice smooth even surface, and you might have to do this 2 times as well. And once this is done, I leave mine and I don't touch it again, it's fine, until you change the nozzle or play around with the mechanics of it. It just seems to hold it quite well. Now if you look, it's extruding filament there, but the extruder is not moving. So why is that? So there's pressure built up in the nozzle with filament that's in there. It's got to a temperature now where that filament's now liquid, and that pressure's being released and is falling out through gravity. So you see there, I've changed my nozzle actually recently, so it's a nice clean nozzle in there now. So I said don't get any metal near the nozzle because you'll scratch it, so you just grab it down below. And now it's up to temperature, but we're waiting for the bed. Now's a good time to go in, clean the nozzle with a bit of cotton, and anything that's on there will come off because it's hot. So that's the good time. It'll carry on oozing out. Don't need to worry about that. We'll just sort that out when it starts printing. So it's going to do the purge now. Homes. See the purge. So it's building pressure up in the nozzle, releasing the pressure. Now it's ready to print. So it's going to print the first square. There we go. So this is far too far away. There you go. It's coming down. Better. Actually, it's too close because it's too thin. So I'm going to adjust that a little bit and get in there. So it's quite rough, so I need to come away a little bit more. There. Now it's nice and smooth. I'm going to try and get in there for you. There, lovely and smooth, like a glass surface when it's printing now. Sometimes you can see the reflection in the nozzle with the print. So that's perfect height for there. So I'll leave that going because we're going to print this a few times. I'm going to print the middle now, which is a circle. I'm going to squish that a little bit more. So that means adjust all 4, bring them all down a little bit. There we go. I think that's quite nice now. So that's printing well. Lovely and smooth, no ridges, no edges. All good. Could squish that a little bit more if I feel like it. This is the back corner. Looking okay. Gonna bring that nozzle down a tad because it was a little bit high. You get used to it. That's perfect. You can see here, lovely and smooth, no ridges. I'm going to raise that up a little bit to make it absolutely flat. Starting to see a few ridges there. Good. Now we're flat. So the back corner's done. Now, where's it going to go next? This back corner here. It's going to be awkward because it's near the light. And that's not too bad. A little bit close, so I'm going to back it off a bit. That means doing up the screw. Here we go. So sticking nice. Oh, a little bit too high now. Is it lifting on that far corner? That's better. There we go. Perfect. So now it'll do the front corner. Across the middle. So this is looking way too far away. So we're going to bring this down. Try and pull it away. No, stuck. So this will be helpful to do on the next pass. At the moment, just adjusting so it's looking nice and smooth. Yeah, that's about right. That's nice and smooth now. So we've got a few different settings. We've been around a few times. That's the end of the print. Really fast, as you can see. So we got 4. They're not all perfect by any means. So what we do now, while it's still hot, just take these off. This is why you need a bin next to your printer. And then we just need to remove the purge line. Yeah, there we go. We're ready to print again. So we go straight in while it's still hot, print the same file again. So this is the bed level test file, 0.2 layer height. So it cooled down a little bit, so we'll just wait for that to heat up again. I noticed there's some stuff on my nozzle. We're just going to clean that off while it's hot. Cotton's really good because it's quite heat resistant, protects your fingers, and it grabs all the molten plastic, so it keeps it nice and clean. We're going to do exactly the same again. This time it should be almost right. If it's not right, then it's going to be very tiny adjustments. And do the first square. Purge in. Alright, let's see what this first square is like. Very nice. So that is a perfect first layer. Let it fill in. It's nice and smooth, no ridges. This is where you're really looking for those ridges. Are you a slight bit too close? Or is it too thick and lifting, and therefore you would adjust that. But I think that's perfect on that one. No adjustment for that one. It's going to go to the middle next. So if you have a look, it's perfect. Now this is the one that I need to look at carefully. This is where you do most of your printing, in the middle. So it's looking good. Could squish it a little bit more, so that means I'm going to adjust each one maybe 1/16 of a turn on the screw, all the same direction. It's looking better, very smooth, good. Let's go into the back corner. Let's have a look at this. Looks a bit thin. No, not too bad, not too bad. Let's try the fill. It is sticking. Oh, that's looking quite nice. I don't think there's much to do there. You're not looking for any gaps. You want to get rid of any gaps. You don't want nothing lifting. And you don't want any ridges occurring because it's too close or too thin. It's another reason for prints not sticking. Yeah, that looks perfect, that one. check this corner. Now this is not sticking, so that needs, let's have a look. There's a bit of, oh, it's not too bad. It's not close enough. I'm gonna back that off. There we go. There we go. Now it's printing nicely. So you can see it doesn't always go right all the time. You have to do a bit of adjustment, but eventually it will go right. Let's look at this corner. Not too bad. Going to squish it a little bit more. That was just an 1/8 of a turn there, or 1/16 of a turn. Oh, that's lovely. Okay, so now the bed is level. You'll be able to print anything now on this bed and it will stick, it won't lift, the corners won't have a problem, and the bottom surfaces will be like glass, they'll be super smooth. So I'll lift one of these squares in a minute so you can see what it's like. There we go. And that is your bed level. Easy. No paper, and because we're using the method of live leveling, as they call it, you'll know that your prints will be accurate because you're actually doing it with the filament at the print settings that you want. So let's just have a look. So you can see here, let's have a look. Absolutely perfect. There's no gaps. Perfectly smooth underneath. Let's try and get you focus. Perfectly smooth underneath, no gaps. Totally level, nice 0.18 layer height of plastic. That's exactly what you want. So there you go. That's not the easiest thing to show on film because it's all very precise and you've got to be in there with two hands and things, but you end up with nice perfect squares, perfect size, nice and smooth, and that is the way to do it. So that is live leveling. It's very easy. You don't have to worry about auto leveling, all that kind of stuff. And now once that's set now, and I'm happy with it, then there's no need to change it. If you change your head, change your nozzle, all that kind of stuff, then you might want to redo the printing of the squares. You don't need to do the other bit. If you're taking it all apart, obviously you need to do the whole lot again, but that will print now for me for a good few months now without having to touch that, as long as I keep the same filament. Sometimes you have to adjust it. If I go to PETG or carbon, then you'd adjust it, but generally that's it. Okay, well hopefully that helps somebody out there. Just go through the steps. It's about an iterative process. Put some time aside, print, test, print, test, print, adjust, put tape underneath if it's not flat, and you'll get there. But once it's done, it's done. So hopefully that alleviates some of the problems with leveling your bed, getting to a state where things don't stick, and hopefully you have a bit of luck with yours. Okay, cheers, bye.